Hey, dailies across the world, welcome to a special edition of the Driven Daily Show. My name is Randall, and this show promises to keep you driven on a daily. Now, I'm excited for this one for multiple reasons, but one reason in particular. We met a couple of years back in Toronto doing a conference, and ever since then, I was drawn to her story, and I thought to myself, let's kick this new year off with a bang. Now, you're probably wondering, who am I talking about? Well, she's a 5-time award-winning mental health advocate, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and a certified life coach. Dailies, let's put our hands together and let's welcome, and let's give her a driven daily welcome, and let's welcome none other than Karen Carrington. Welcome, Karen. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good that I'm in your space. Thank you ever so much for inviting me to spend this precious time with you, Randall. Thank you so much for creating this platform, and just thank you for showing up the way you always do.
Karen, thanks so much also for being here. I know your schedule was very hectic. I was at the gym and I just left the gym and I checked my phone, and then I got your message saying, "Hey, can't we do it tonight as opposed to in the week?" And I thought to myself, you know what? I might be tired. I might have my schedule for tonight, but hey, I think this is such a better use of my time engaging here with you. Let's get it out of the way. Karen, I've got a couple of questions for you. And of course, at the end, we'll do some speed lightning round questions that's tailor-made just for you. Now, before we even get started, I know that, you've got two sons, one 28 and one 19. How are they doing?
They are doing amazing. Actually, one just turned 29 the other day. And they are so driven, and even though they're my sons and they're younger than me, they're my boys, I look up to them. Their work ethic, just their, like, your show, just being driven. And so I know the way we grew up, we would look up to our parents, obviously, and they were the authorities. But just the way my sons are, I look up to them. And I'm never, ever too old to learn from this generation. So yeah, thanks for asking. They're doing well.
No, for sure. I just thought I'd ask, and I'm glad they're doing well. Whenever I'm on social media and I look at Instagram and just seeing the whole family going on vacation, and you taking us with you onto your journey, we kind of feel part of the family. So I thought, let me just ask how they're doing. Also, if you ever stalk Karen on social media, you will see that she's probably one of the most fashionable life coaches in North America. Where did that start, Karen?
Thanks for saying that. I have my license in cosmetology, and I've always been really into beauty and fashion. And then you're right, I'm also a life coach. And I think the two can marry. I believe that you can be fashionable and also a figure for people, someone to look up to. The two can live in the same space. And so the only drawback is my rule is I never wear the same thing twice.
Whoa. Okay.
So when I'm doing like an event or, a keynote, I made it kind of a thing where I'm never wearing the same thing twice. So that's hard to keep up with. But I believe that even though fashion is outer beauty, I truly believe that how you feel on the outside really helps you feel better on the inside. Randall, there are days where I feel like crap and I want to just wear frumpy clothes, my pajamas, but I get up and I show up and I dress up, and confidence and beauty really starts from within. But it helps when I show up in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do that because it also just has a sense of exudes confidence when you look good. You always look good. Like every time I look, you always look good. So you get it, right? Not saying you can't look like have a down day, but the worst thing is having a down day and not feeling good in the inside or the outside.
No, that's true. It definitely sounds like a walk-in closet is currently the state of affairs at your home, because if you're not wearing an outfit twice, I don't know about just a dinky closet there. But I remember going on your social media and seeing, actually on the website, the very first thing you see is you looking like Superwoman. Man, Beyonce, you can take a step back. We've got a new beehive in town now. Now, Karen, you've got an amazing story, and we're going to get into the story. But before we get into the story, and I just want to take the time out to thank the viewers for watching right now. We do see you. We want to thank you for giving us your heartbeat and spending your time with myself and Karen. Now, just doing my research, you do so much. You presenting awards, you on television sharing motivation. There's so much that you do. Can you share with me, like, have you always been this individual that has been very extroverted and very goal driven?
What a great question. Thank you. You're right, I have been. I've never been shy. Nothing scares me. Absolutely nothing. No circumstance scares me. I grab opportunities not with just one hand, but with both hands when they're presented to me. And sometimes people say, hey, maybe you're doing a little too much. Never, never. I make time for everything within reason. There's balance, obviously. But I believe it's not for everyone, but the secret to my success is always, always showing up in any capacity that I can.
Okay.
Now, I'm not excellent in everything, but I certainly know how to do everything. I may not be excellent in it, but I make sure I understand how to do everything. And so that I can show up and I'll learn somehow, whether I take a course about it. So if someone says, I need you to do a workshop, which they asked me to do several times during the pandemic, when there was a lot of physical abuse going on in the home, when people were on lockdown.
Okay.
Randall, they wanted me to do a workshop on that and deliver it. It's not my area of expertise when it comes to giving that type of advice, what are exit strategies, but you know what? I researched it. I took courses on it.
Okay.
I made sure and understood it. And so to anyone out there listening who wants to do different things, maybe you don't have to be good, excellent at everything. But my advice is always try to understand new things and new opportunities that come your way. Always try to understand and take on new challenges.
No, that's good to hear. And for those that are watching, we do want to encourage you. If you have any questions for Karen, I'd encourage you to leave it in the comments below, and we'll make sure to answer it as the show progresses, or we'll answer it at the end when both myself and Karen is sitting on the couch and looking at the comments, and we'll answer it after the show. Now, we want to dive straight into it because there's a lot to unpack. And I asked Karen before we start is if everything, or is there anything off limits? And I'm glad that she's given me the go ahead to really dive deep. So Karen, are you ready?
I'm born ready.
Why does it sound like we're going to do something crazy? But I tell you what, I want to start off at the age of 15, when you were at a point in your life where you felt like you no longer wanted to be here. Do you mind taking us to that moment?
Certainly. Certainly I can. That was actually a time in my life where, if it's okay with you, that's a part where I wrote in my book, A Fresh Start.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to share it, but I'm going to just read a little passage if it's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So this comes from chapter 1, and it says, as I slipped out of bed each morning, I expected it would be another day of verbal put downs, emotional neglect, or perhaps a black eye, just like the one I got for having a friend over at the house unannounced. My childhood was unstable and dysfunctional. I was always in a state of fear and I cried incessantly. And I tried to figure out new ways to feel accepted. I cared so much what my parents thought about me, but I always felt like a failure.
Hmm.
I just didn't have my parents' approval. I did well in school. I was active, athletic, and I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. I tried to figure out new ways to do better, be better, and get their attention. But it seems like I always fell short. I felt unworthy, and I just wanted the pain to go away forever. So one late summer evening, I sat at the edge of my bed and I looked out the bedroom window. As the sun was setting, I felt emotionless inside. I was 15 and hopeless. Without much thought, I left the house and I walked out to an elementary school. I looked around and realized there wasn't anyone nearby. As I walked, everything around me, the trees, the sound of the birds, everything, it all seemed so insignificant to me.
Hmm.
The thoughts of being verbally abused and feeling unworthy circled in my mind. I felt like I didn't belong and like I didn't matter. So as I walked towards the school, I managed to climb up a 50-foot building and I stood at the very top. The numb feeling was still there. I slowly looked down and I thought to myself of how much I hated my life.
Hmm.
I wanted the pain and loneliness to end. So I tilted my head forward and I glanced down, and the feelings of inadequacy consumed me.
Hmm.
I couldn't stand living here anymore. There was no point of being alive. My childhood was a constant, emotionally abusive battle that I would never, ever win.
Hmm.
I never heard the words, I love you. I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. So I closed my eyes. I walked closer to the edge of the rooftop, slowly placing one foot in front of the other.
Hmm.
And I looked down and I jumped and I screamed all the way down. And I landed face down, knocked out, stars spinning. And hours later, I opened my eyes and I was lying in a hospital bed and I was disappointed. And I thought to myself, damn it,
Hmm.
I'm still alive.
Hmm.
Like my dad said, I can't do anything right. And you know what? I couldn't even kill myself right.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for taking us to such a vulnerable state in your life. And as we're going to proceed, I know there's someone watching right now that can resonate with pieces of your story. Karen, when you went through that moment, I know in previous interviews you mentioned that you were not close to your father, and then of course your mom, you lost your mom as well.
Mm.
Right now, when you look back at that moment when you were 15, if you could tell your 15-year-old self something before the moment before you jumped, what would you have told your 15-year-old self?
Mm. I I would have told myself back then that God's love is unfailing.
Mm.
it's unconditional.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, Randall, we look for love in all these different places,
Yeah.
and God's love is unconditional. And you know what? I believe that although you asked me this question now, I believe now, looking back, that there was a voice that had told me God's love is unfailing in that moment. I believe,
Really?
I believe that that voice, that God was and is with me and saved me. I was meant to live and do bigger things. God's love is unfailing. And so back then, I used to look for love in all the wrong places. I'll take accountability, even though I never heard it from my father. It was me, even though I was young. I looked for it in all the wrong places,
Yeah.
all the wrong places. And now I know that love, not only can I find it in God's love, but in myself. I had to learn self-love. Who's going to love me or show me love if I can't love myself?
Yeah.
Self-love.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I would tell my 15-year-old self, that God's love is unfailing. And Karen, you need to love yourself, girl.
Such a timeless message. Thanks for going back there, Karen. I know sometimes when you are on interviews, it can be a case of where it feels like you are reopening wounds, but it does sound like, as your journey progressed, you have had progress when it comes to that inner healing. So I'm really glad you were able to take us back. Now, speaking about taking us back, I know in 2007 you were diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. For us that don't know, because it seems like a very big word, what does that consist of? Like, what is general anxiety disorder?
Yeah, great question. Not only is it a big word, it's a big feeling. It's a
Yeah,
big fear.
gotcha.
Well, fear is something that we have in us, and it's meant to protect us. Fear protects us from a burning stove, from a large animal running after us, or a truck coming at us. Fear puts our body in a state of we need to be protected. Now, when it comes to general anxiety disorder, that's fear taken on another level, where you're in this constant state of worry,
Ah,
where the worry is, it's normal to worry about your kid if they're home late, or worry about the exam that you might fail. But I'm talking about an unhealthy worry, where
okay.
you tell stories in your head. Why didn't they call me? Why haven't they texted me back? They hate me. I must have done something wrong. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to get fired. My boss wants to talk to me. I bet he's going to let me go. It's just this constant worry, where it starts to consume not only your life, your thoughts, your emotion, but it has this overbearing negative impact on your relationship with others and with yourself.
And Karen, thanks for sharing that. It's the way you described it. It's very prevalent. Like when I think back, the worry, yes, we mentioned there's certain types of worry that is necessary, the fear of putting your hand on the stove, but the unhealthy worry where it consumes you, it seems like it is the order of the day in today's world, where you put on the news, it gives you anxiety. You speak to your friends, they're giving you anxiety. It really begs the question for someone that's watching, and that's someone that is going through that state at this moment. What's one tip that you have for someone that is experiencing anxiety, constant worry? I know there's many things one can do, and I know as a life coach you probably have a system to go through, but if you could just throw just a nugget for someone that can help them as they listen to this.
What a great question. You know, I had to go through that type of therapy myself when I was diagnosed. And
Okay.
a tip I would share, which I did myself, and it still helps me even today, is
Mhm.
ask myself, what proof do I have that this is real?
Mm.
What data do I have to prove this fact?
Mm.
Like, challenge your thoughts. You
Mm.
know, if you think you're going to be fired just because you got an email saying, can you come meet with me at 9 a.m.?
Mhm.
So when your thought says, I'm going to be fired, based on what?
Mm.
Past performance? Is it something that you've been doing repeatedly? So just ask yourself and write it down. You write it down. Give
Mm.
10 signs that challenge why this is true. And so
That's good.
when I think, oh my gosh, Randall hasn't called me back. I must have done something wrong. He hates me. He doesn't want to be my friend anymore. Okay,
Mm.
I'm going to write down 10 things that proves that Randall doesn't like me.
Mm.
Right? And then 10 things that oppose that. Oppose that. Oh,
Okay.
Randall might be busy. Randall's Wi-Fi might be off.
Mm.
Randall didn't see the message.
Mm.
Randall's going through something right now. It's not all about me.
Hmm.
There's so many other things that it could be.
Mm.
And this sounds a bit, but sometimes our ego gets in the way when it comes to anxiety. You
Hmm.
know, it's not all about me. I
Okay.
had to realize that other people are going through things as well.
Hmm.
And it's so funny. Normally, when you do say, okay, I think my boss is emailing me because I'm going to get fired, or I think Randall isn't talking to me because he's mad, or I think that the person I'm seeing is cheating. Do you know that finally, when you approach the person and you end up in the meeting, or I get on the phone with Randall, it's usually, hey, Karen, I just wanted to know if you had an extra pen. That's all the boss, or
Yeah.
Randall just says, oh, I was just on a trip, or, oh, and Randall, I admit for me, I used to get embarrassed, like, oh, I thought that was all about me.
Mm.
It's not always all about me. People are going through things. People don't respond to your message because they're busy. Your boss just wants to see you to maybe give you a raise.
Aye.
Right? And so with anxiety, we tend to want to go towards the negative. It wants to grasp on, the brain likes to default to the negative.
Mm.
And that's why in my book, A Fresh Start, I have 111 affirmations. And I always have an affirmation ready in my head. I always have one ready. And there's a saying I have in my book where it says, don't believe everything you think.
Okay.
Don't believe everything you think.
Hmm.
Just because you believe it or just because you think it
Mm.
doesn't mean it's true.
Oh man, Karen, thank you so much for that tip. It just snaps us back to reality to remind us that sometimes we shouldn't place so much emphasis on our thoughts because sometimes our thoughts ain't true. And thank you so much for that reminder. Now, I want to just divert the conversation a little bit. I know that, in 2007, you were given the diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis that was given, was it before your mom passed, or after?
It was before because I was diagnosed in '07 and she passed away in 2011.
Okay.
And so I was diagnosed when I Randall, I just knew something didn't feel right.
Hmm.
I could tell I was thinking fast, breathing fast, always breaking down, really sensitive. Um, it was impacting my relationships, my
Hmm.
insecurity, these thoughts. And so I remember driving to the doctor's office,
Hmm.
and even in my marriage, I'm no longer married anymore, but I admit that my anxiety really impacted my marriage. There was just so many thoughts that I had that weren't true. Some of them were true, but a lot of them, I would take a situation and just really magnify it. My thoughts were just racing. And
Hmm.
again, many of the things that transpired were true, but I would take it to just this
Another
other
level.
level, another level,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't know how to manage my emotions.
Hmm.
And even some of the things in my marriage that happened were, yes, they were very hurtful towards me. I took them to a point where I started to make it about me because those things happened to me in my marriage. It was more emotional. There was nothing physical, but it was emotional, which was really traumatizing. I
Hmm.
would take it to a level of, this is happening because I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm
Hmm.
not worthy. And so those emotions were just, and those thoughts of ending my life, like when I was 15, would come back up again. I knew, okay, I need help. And so I drove to the doctor's office,
Hmm.
and I remember my hand on the steering wheel. And I'm like, I can't go in there. I can't go in there because I knew if I went into that doctor's office and I admit that I need help, that I would have to face getting better.
Hmm.
And I think a part of me, everyone's addicted to something. I mean, whether it's shopping, clothes, pornography, drugs, my
Hmm.
addiction was being worried. I liked being worried. It brought me comfort.
Hmm.
I was always in a state of worry. It's what I understood. And I understood that if I got help, I'd have to now let go of my comfort and addiction of worry.
Hmm.
So when I went into the doctor's office, I finally went in and I opened the door and I looked at the receptionist, and she looked at me. I was frail, tears all down my eyes, hair was a mess. And I said, "My name is Karen Carrington and I need help."
Hmm.
That's all I said. That's, to be honest, all I remember. It was the journey started there when I opened my mouth and asked for help. It was me surrendering, saying, not that I give up,
Hmm.
but I give up living like this.
Wow. Karen, your story resonates with so much women watching this right now. One thing I've taken away from what you just said was the turning point for you was you admitting that you needed help. And for a woman that's watching right now that is feeling overwhelmed, Karen, and is feeling like she's being emotionally taken on a roller coaster, borderline being abused. One thing I get from what you're saying is that she shouldn't feel afraid of admitting that help is needed. If you could give a point number two to that woman that is feeling overwhelmed right now in her relationship, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is, when we do seek help, be mindful of where you get that help, and who you're drawing that from.
Hmm.
It's so key to ensure that you're asking for help from a safe place.
Yeah.
As women, sometimes we tend to lean on our friends, which I I endorse lean on your friends, but I always want to remind as a tip number 2, your safe friends.
Yeah.
And I know we've all been bitten and betrayed and, let down by some of our friends in the past.
Hmm.
And just be really mindful of who you share with, and who you ask for help. So tip number 2 would be ask for help, but make sure it's from someone or a resource where you feel emotionally and mentally safe.
So true. And speaking about feeling safe, I know you do a lot of work when it comes to men and men's mental health, and I'd love to pick your brain regarding that. Of course, as a man and as men that is watching this. But before we get there, Karen, we just want to take the time out just to thank all those that are joining right now. We do see you. We do want to thank you for giving us your heartbeat, spending it with your time with myself and Karen. And feel free to go ahead and leave your questions in the comment section below, and we'll make sure to answer it at the end of the show. Now, Karen, we want to wrap this conversation up, but before we do, your journey starts with yourself getting diagnosed in 2007 with general anxiety disorder. You've lost a mom. You weren't close to your dad. You had a divorce. You lost your home and finances. A common theme that I see here, Karen, and I'd love us to touch on this point, was there was a heavy sense of loss throughout your life. How are you doing right now?
How am I doing right now? I
Mm,
am doing, or still doing,
mm,
the work,
mm.
the work, the work. The healing journey is never really done.
Yeah.
When you get to the top of the mountain, like then you need to climb down it and do it again and do it again. So
Okay.
healing is it's not linear. So how am
Mm,
I doing now? I'm more proactive than reactive when it comes to healing.
okay. And it's
You
a good
know,
place to be, good space to be, eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you you're not sure if it's gonna rain, but pack your umbrella just in case. So I
Mm,
don't know when that hurt's gonna come at me, but I know that I have the resources in my tool belt, my secret tool belt, I always call it, that
mm,
when things come at me, pain, heartbreak, loss,
mm.
that I'm proactively prepared with how I'm going to deal with it. And so there's an affirmation in my book. I'm going to keep on going back to that because even I use my own book for healing. It's affirmation number 35. And it says, I choose to heal my hurt spirit.
Mm,
I choose. It's intentional. It's not
yeah.
reactive. I choose to heal it even
Mm,
before it's broken.
mm,
I choose to heal, whether that means I go in prayer, I go in meditation, I read self development books. I'm always in a state of healing. So
mm,
when that wound comes, which it will, none of us can escape pain.
mm,
But I know what to do immediately, whether that's call for therapy, call my safe circle,
mm,
only have positive things coming down on my social media. I
mm,
have my sanctuary where I go by the water. I have my safe space. I have
mm,
my candles ready. I have whatever tools ready immediately so
mm.
that actually, let me go back to that if that's okay. In that affirmation number 35, it does say, I I will feel my grief, but not wallow in it. So
Okay.
I allow myself, I always encourage people,
Hmm.
allow yourself to feel it. It's okay to be hurt.
Mm.
I used to run away from the hurt, Randall. I didn't want to feel that. Like, who wants to feel hurt?
Yeah.
I'd play it off. I'd pretend that it didn't bother me.
Hmm.
I wouldn't allow myself to feel hurt. I thought it was a sign of weakness to be hurt.
So true. And Karen, when it comes to grief, so I lost my mom in 2016,
So
and
sorry.
yeah, and I always say with death, it's not something you get over. It's something you manage for the rest of your life. And I was going to ask you the question, but you've actually answered. I was going to ask you, what's one or two things for someone that is still experiencing heavy loss for them to do? And the two things you just mentioned was, allow yourself to feel it. Number one, and number two, you mentioned a whole bunch of things, but one of the things that stood out was you mentioned, the circle of friends that you reach out to. Now, it then begs the question, Karen, what's a quality that's important to you in detecting whether or not this friend is going to be a good friend, especially when it comes to confiding in that person in this time of grief?
What a great question. A quality that
Mm.
I look for or detect to know that they're safe would be a few things. Number one, when you share with that person, just watch the reaction and see if they kind of overtake your or hijack your story. Like, so if I say,
Okay.
I lost my boyfriend. Oh, yeah, girl, I lost mine too last week. You know what? Just always has a one up on you. So someone who hijacks the story is a red flag.
Okay.
Number two, someone who minimizes the story. Oh,
Hmm.
girl, you were too good for him anyways. Don't worry. No, no, no. These men out there, so they're minimizing. Get
Okay.
over it. You're strong. You're beautiful. You'll find the next one soon. Right?
Hmm.
So anyone who hijacks is a red flag. Anyone who minimizes is a red flag. And anyone who uses names or shares information about others, I assure you they're doing the same thing about you.
Mm. That one is actually a really that one caught me off guard
Mm.
because yeah, it shows if they can talk so easily about others, they can talk very easily about you. Three hacks right there. If someone hijacks, if someone minimizes, someone shares personal information about others very easily. That's some good that's some good stuff right there, Karen. Now, I do want to take the time out once again. If you are just joining us right now, welcome. Thank you for spending the time with myself and Karen. We are not over yet. We're just halfway through the show. So I'm excited to pick her brain and for us to really have a good conversation. Now, Karen, your show, the Karen Carrington Show, there's a segment or a series in your show where you have men on and you deal with men's health. What's one or two things that you've learned from men having discussions with them on your show, Karen? I'm really interested.
What a great question. That
Yeah,
men's series meant a lot to me.
can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, two things that really stood out. I mean, I've interviewed over my career of the show over 500 men. And
Okay.
a trend that I did notice is men, even though it appears to some people that they don't have feelings or they don't want to express their feelings, they do. They do. Men want to express their feelings, but they just need a platform to do so. They
Okay.
often don't have a platform. So once you give a man a platform to speak, a safe platform to speak, judgment-free zone. That's
Hmm.
how my show always ran. It was judgment-free. Once they feel safe, they'll speak.
Okay.
They'll speak. But the second thing I noticed is when they do speak, they cannot be emasculated or felt to be made weak that they shared certain things. Because
Okay.
once they share, when they're judged about feeling being weak or having these emotions, that's when they shut down. They want to share, but then, oh, you're being soft. Oh, stop all the crying. Oh, get over it. There was men on my show that were abused by their wife all the time, abused. I mean, physically abused, and that 5'4", 120-pound woman, she hurts you. Come on. It's embarrassing to call, the authorities on your wife who's beating you up,
Yeah.
And so I noticed those were the two things I noticed is that men want to share. They do have emotions. They just don't want to be judged once they do share. And once a man feels respected and understood and acknowledged, that gives him the space and the permission to be able to start his healing journey. And another thing is once he feels like he can identify with other men that feel the same way and realize that he's not alone. So when I would have my show and one man would speak, then the other men would say, yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me. That's me.
No, that's so true. It's so true. I've also dealing with men on my platform. One thing I've realized is that there's actually a big pandemic when it comes to men being single for a long time. And I'm sure this could be the case for women too. But it would be a case of where men are single for long periods of time, and they now find it hard to come back into the dating game because they haven't exercised that muscle. All the muscle they've exercised was the single muscle. Now, since I'm speaking to a woman right now, let's get a little juicy. Can we get a little juicy, Karen? What's an important quality, or what's a red flag, one red flag and one green flag to you when it comes to the opposite sex, when it comes to dating in particular?
A red flag would be, for me, is monitor how he speaks to the women who are close to him in his life.
Okay.
Whether that be his mother, does he respect his mother? Does he respect other women in public? How does he speak about women? What kind of language does he use? Right? So that would be a red flag if it's always toxic, right? And so that means there might be something there about women. If all the women in his life, there's something toxic about them. And so that's a red flag to me that I too will end up on that list. If that's how he's speaking to his mother or his sister or his daughter, does he make space for his daughter? That would be a red flag as how he treats women. A green flag for me would be a man who is open to receiving help.
Okay.
That is such a green flag for me. Okay. We all have our issues. And once I hear a man is open to admitting that there is an issue there and is open to doing the work and getting the help, I am the first person who will be by his side to help him get that help. And so that's definitely a green flag when a man admits his vulnerabilities.
Interesting. Just to elaborate on that point a little, I see where you're going with that. If a man is open for criticism, open for feedback, open for saying, hey, you know what, can you assist me on this issue? It just shows that there's a level of maturity that has taken place. Of course, sometimes our ego gets in the way, but for the most part, I couldn't agree with you more on that green flag. Can we take it down a notch when it comes to a green flag. Let's be a little bit shallow for a moment, Karen. What's a green flag when it comes to, or rather, let me put it in this way: what's your favorite body part on a man?
I would say favorite body part on a man is what would it be? You know what? You know what? It would be, I think it would be hair, facial hair. Like I worked in a fun fact about me, worked in a barber shop, a male barber shop for many, many years.
Really, eh?
Yes, a male barbershop for many years. I have a tattoo of the barbering scissors on my leg. Another fun fact about me. And so just the male's like facial hair, and just being able to get into his hair and doing different cuts and whatnot. There's something about a man's hair that tells a lot of a story too, right? So whether it's long, short, curly. I know it sounds like people were hoping for a more exotic answer, but for me, what? When I see some nice facial hair, like Randall, you are sporting some nice facial hair.
Come
You know,
on.
yo,
I was going to ask you, Karen, it just to put you on a little bit of a spot there. When you look at my what I've got going on right now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at this? Like,
well, I know beard grooming
okay,
takes some skill. It takes patience too to grow that beard, to have it even, to have it always, shaped nicely. So when I see that, to me, there's a story behind that. Wow. He takes that time. So if he takes time with that, what else does he take time with? He makes time for himself.
okay.
It's very symmetrical. It's very balanced. Maybe so is his personality. And right. So for me as a
I get
stylist,
you. I get you.
as a stylist, someone's hair, whether that's men or women, usually tells a story of how we wear our hair. Hair is considered an adornment. And so when I was taking our classes and getting licensed, hair is an expression of who we are. So if it's low hair or no hair, it means you want to be quick maintenance, or you just like that feeling of that polished look or whatnot. But hair, it's something that comes from within. It usually has a story there. I remember when I was working and a man would want to, when women would come in and say, cut off all my hair. I just broke up with my boyfriend. Cut it all off. Because there's this thing about cutting off the hair that there's a removal. And there's a thing about growing hair, like your beard, where there's a lot of growth and prosperity there, right? So yeah, there's always a story behind hair. So that's my favorite part.
No, wonderful. It's interesting. Whenever I see, and this is like a common thing with guys, when we see women with straight hair versus women with curly, wavy hair. The wavy hair for us guys kind of signifies, hey, she's playful. She's in a fun, playful mood. The straight hair kind of signifies, hey, she means business. So I couldn't agree more. The hair really tells a story, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And especially if you're single and in the dating game, it's really important for us to really just analyze our look, because many times we're wondering, why are we still single? Well, the mirror don't lie. And speaking about being single, Karen, are you currently, you didn't have to give us the juicy or the dirty details, but are you currently single or no?
That is such a great question. That is one question that
when a woman starts off her answer with that's such a great question.
it is such a great question, because I noticed that I never not answer because I'm embarrassed or trying to hide anything.
No,
It's not the reason why I never answered the question. I just feel like no matter what state of my life I'm in, whether I'm dating, whether I'm single, whether, I'm starting a relationship. I was just having this conversation with someone the other day, actually, is that when I personally keep it private, it's not because I'm trying to be, secretive. It's because
I hear you.
I believe when there's too many hands in a pot, it's easy to get distracted with different opinions coming from all different angles.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you on that one, Karen. And some people like more than one hand in the pot, but that's a different conversation for another
That's another
story.
show.
No, for sure.
Show.
The reason why I asked was, if you could remember a time that you were single, what were some of the challenges that you've experienced dating, in being on the dating market? Just looking at it from a woman's point of view, like what were some of the challenges that you've incurred when you were single?
Yeah, I think it would be I think the challenges would be calendars,
Okay.
hey, let's do it this day or that day or this day or that day. I'm really a person of, if I love someone and want to make time with that person, I will always, always find the time. I'll make the time.
Okay.
I'm never too busy for someone that I'm trying to build with. And so one of the challenges would be, I mean, we're all busy. So if you can't, sync up calendars, that's understandable. But if you're dating someone and it's just texting back and forth, and there's no in-person interaction, that can be challenging. You can't really get to know a person, over text back and forth. Get up, no matter how busy we are, whenever you want something, like if there's an interview, a job you want, you'll show up. You'll make the time. You'll even spending time with you today means the world to me. You and I made the time. When you want something so badly, you'll move mountains to make the time. So that's something that, I would always give advice. And for myself, if someone really, really, really wants to be in my presence, we will not allow room for absence.
Man, so true. So true. And hence why I told myself I cannot do long distance, Karen. I know I tried it once and I said, no, I need the person to physically be there. I'm not sure if you've ever had one, but it's not for everyone.
And you know what I love about you, Randall, what you just said? I love what you said. It's not for everyone, or it is for everyone, or some people are different, or Karen, what is your preference? I love how you understand that everyone is different.
Yeah.
And one piece of advice I would give someone is know what you don't want.
Yeah.
Be positive of what you won't tolerate. Have a list of what you want. That's important. Whatever you're looking for, whether that be, it needs to be someone who has the same core values as me. It needs to be someone who know what you want, but be 1,000% sure of what you don't want. Because a lot of times we are so desperate to find love that we're willing to break that boundary and say, you know what? Maybe. Be certain of your values, be certain of your boundaries. Obviously, be flexible, but you have to have your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And sometimes we break these non-negotiables in the sake of finding love.
Yeah. Man.
Right?
And I'm so glad you said that, especially for someone that has been single for a while right now, and you're watching this, and you at the point now where you'll just take anything and everything, and now you are compromising on your core values. And thank you so much, Karen, just for a good reminder for us, just to make sure that, hey, we cannot be on the market in a state of desperation. Otherwise, there's going to be more harm done than good. So I appreciate that. Now, I know this is not a dating show, but I thought, let me pick your brain, because I know probably on the men's segment you most likely had some love and relationship talk too. So I thought, let me pick a brain regarding that. Now, Karen, I do know you do so many things. one thing that stood out for me was the fact that on September 10th, it is your birthday. And on top of that, it is National Suicide Awareness Day. Now, you are really an advocate for this fundraising campaign, and you essentially wanting to raise $10,000. Can you just give us just a brief on the National Suicide Awareness Day and the campaign that you're involved in?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, birthdays are a celebratory moment, obviously, right? And so I like to be able to, if I'm able to celebrate, but also bring awareness to something that's so important, if I could do the two things at once. And so National Suicide Awareness Day is something that is now more spoken about. It's something that needs to be not so stigmatized, and the fact that we're having a conversation around it, it's key.
Yeah.
You know, data shows that men suicide rate is 4 times higher than women. It's just that a lot of it goes undocumented or not spoken about.
Really?
And so having these conversations, having the awareness around it, being okay to talk about it. If anyone's out there that's having those emotions, just know that there's tools and resources to help you. And so the fundraiser that I do each and every year is to be able to just have a place for people to go. It helps with the tools, resources. It helps the workshops that I was more doing during the pandemic, especially when that was so prevalent. And even though we are through with the pandemic, suicide is a silent, yet it's silent, but it still right now speaks volumes, and we just need to speak more about it. And just, if anyone out there does feel like they don't have a purpose here, just know that we all have a purpose to be here, that you are loved. There is support out there, seen and unseen support. Know that you are loved, that you are needed. And then also remember that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay not to be okay. It's just when you start having those emotions for quite some time, and when you're in that dark place and you start having those emotions of feeling that you don't belong, know that it's time to reach out to help. You know, just know that there is help out there.
No, absolutely. I definitely want to wish you all the best, especially with running the campaign all the way to your birthday, September 10th. And if those individuals that wants to contribute, I'm sure they can visit the website. And if I'm not mistaken, the website is KarenCarrington.com.
You got it. KarenCarrington.com. You could find my contact info. There is even the book. There is the fundraiser, the mental health work I do on the YouTube channel. It goes right from my website of past episodes where different things are talked about. Those resources are always there at your fingertips, always.
No, absolutely. Now, speaking about fingertips and tips, I want to get a health tip from you, Karen. I know you mentioned 2 facts from yourself. You've been a licensed cosmetologist for 20 years and you eat avocado every day. At least you try to eat it every day. Can you give us some health tips when it comes to, from a cosmetologist point of view, healthy skin, healthy hair? What's some things we can do, especially for those new here? You know, we want to be revitalized. So what's a couple of things you'd recommend?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm sure we've heard it before, but I always want to repeat it again. Just as you sip that water, water is so essential for hydration, and putting magnesium, like salt, a little hint of salt for hydration in your water is also key. Having your protein. I know a lot of us like to fill up on our carbs, especially after the holidays, but the protein is so key. For me, eliminating sugar. I do not consume sugar. That's just not for me. And I know this is not for everyone, but for me, people say, "How are you a grandmother?" Like, I'm a grandmother, and I sometimes
What?
I know,
That is awesome.
I know, right? And I'm
That
like,
is
how,
awesome.
right? And
Yeah.
it's for everyone. But when they ask, what is the secret? What do you eat? What you don't eat? I don't. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't do that. So for me, just refraining from those things help me feel revitalized
Okay.
and stable and healthy. And also, I would really recommend anything that is the color of the rainbow. If it falls under one of the colors, the 7 colors of the rainbow, try to have a color, a piece of food or fruit or protein from each color, whether that be your berries, your greens,
Okay.
your salads, your
Okay.
blueberries, your yellow, your pineapples, your bananas. If it falls in that spectrum, try to have a little piece of each every day, and you'll
Okay.
be off to a good start.
No, that's awesome. I've never thought about it that way in terms of the rainbow. So let's have a rainbow. Let's have a taste of the rainbow every day.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
So Karen, we're coming closer to the end of the show, and I'd like us to uh, end the show with one of your favorite quotes in your book, if you don't mind sharing with us. Of course, the new book has launched. I do see on social media you've been doing your book tour. The last place you've been was Ottawa. And just looking at the venue, it was such a colorful venue. What a good choice. Yeah. What was that experience like in Ottawa, Karen, releasing the book?
It was, out of all the places I've been, Randall, for the
Mm,
book tour, including Florida, Vegas, New York, Arizona, Paris. There was Chicago in there, Hollywood, Ottawa. It needed to be done. That's my hometown. That's where
really? Eh?
chapter 1 to 4 takes place in Ottawa. And so for
Okay.
me, it was important to revisit my childhood place. And there was a lot of closure, revisiting a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really special to me.
It's like it was full circle uh, going back to chapter 1. Now, that being said, the book is right here. It's called A Fresh Start: 111 Affirmations. Kick us out with one of your favorite affirmations right there, Karen.
Woohoo! Let's go to affirmation number 20. Let me see, 1 second. Let's go to affirmation number 29.
Okay.
And you know what? I always choose 29. I always choose 29. It's my safe go to.
Okay.
Something just came over me. I was about to read it and I said, switch this up.
Switch it up, baby. Come
Yeah,
on.
let's switch it up. I always, I have, it's one of my favorites, but I'm gonna switch it up. So I'll say I'm gonna choose another one. 29 says, I always have the choice to recreate my reality. Every day we have the choice to start life again. Every day we have
Sure.
the choice for a fresh start. That is something that I just believe, that no matter what mistake we make,
Mm,
what failure we cross, every day we have the choice to recreate our reality.
mm.
But for this,
So, Karen,
for this,
before you
yeah,
move forward, I just want to acknowledge that one that you just
yeah,
mentioned. You mentioned that every day you have a choice to recreate your reality. Let's just take a moment and
yes,
let's just acknowledge that, because many times we feel like, hey, my past is so miserable. How am I going to move forward? And you are saying, hey, it starts with a choice. So
mm,
this is so empowering, Karen, because it lets me know and the viewers know that we can decide if we would like to turn around our lives. And I always say, Karen, God has given us a free will. So in other words, he's saying, you know what, my daughter Karen, my son Randall, I'm going to give you control over your own actions. Yes, I'm all powerful and I'm all knowing. But when it comes to your actions, I'm going to give you full control. And you are just saying right now, Karen, hey, you are saying, let me utilize my free will and let me choose. Now, hey, we're not going to harp on that one, but I just wanted to say that was a good one right there.
Now I wanted to stick with that one. Now
Come
I just
on,
want to, like, no.
let's go over to the other one. This is awesome.
We are going to move on to 88. Letting go does not mean giving up.
Can you repeat that one? That one just went over my head there for a moment.
Yes. Letting go does not mean giving up. I want everyone out there to know that 2024 is a new year.
Yes.
And there's things that no longer serve you in your life. And when you let them go, that is not a sign of giving up. That is a sign of giving hope to your new beginning.
Yes.
You deserve a fresh start, and you cannot have that fresh start until you first let go. Trust me, that thing you're holding on to, that relationship you're holding on to, that toxic friendship you're holding on to, let that go. It's not giving up. It's giving you, it's giving back to you the fresh start, not only that you need, but you deserve.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was the 5-time award-winning mental health advocate, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and certified life coach, Karen Carrington. Karen, what a joy it's been. And from my heart to yours, I want to let you know that I value this conversation. This conversation will go down in the history books. And I'm sure as I was blessed, all the dailies that has been watching right now is blessed. And if you are blessed dailies, make sure to go ahead and save this video, like, and also share it with someone you care about. Any last words, Karen, on your side?
Last words are driven daily. Thank you so much, Randall, for driving for those that are watching, for creating this platform, for being such an inspiration, but most of all, for creating a safe space for me. I appreciate that you have me in your space and took care of my emotions, my vulnerabilities, held space. And I just pray over you as you continue to move God's kingdom and that you keep on driving so that the rest can follow. Thank you for that, Randall.
Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate those words. And like we always say on the show, Karen, we are not here just to survive. We are here to thrive. And until next time, peace.